This week, we close out our string of special episodes themed around Shinobi with one final deeper look into LizardCube and Sega's Shinobi Art of Vengeance. Grab your kunai and a drink, and welcome to the SEGA Lounge. Welcome to the SEGA Lounge, where we celebrate our love for all things Sega, including the games, the music, and the community. I'm your host, KC. Join me as I talk to different guests and learn more about their projects and passion for Sega. Hello and welcome to the SEGA Lounge. It's the podcast that's all about Sega, the games, the music, the community, and everything in between. My name's David, aka KC. I'm your host, and we're in full-on Shinobi Art of Vengeance mode, right? So after last episode, we took a quick break from talking Shinobi. We just can't get enough of that crazy ninja. And so we're back to discuss the game itself in more length. And I thought to myself, who do I invite to join me to talk about this great game? And the answer is none other than Brian Shea of Game Informer and the All Things Nintendo podcast. Hello, Brian.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. This is great. It's always fun chatting with you.
Thank you. You too. In other times, if this was the 90s or something, you would be my big nemesis because you have an All Things Nintendo podcast.
Well, hey, you do what we don't. So, Sega and Nintendo used to be rivals. Now they are best friends, much to the chagrin of Tom Kalinske and Al Nielsen.
Yeah,
they have expressed to me that they don't love the fact that Mario and Sonic compete in the Olympics together.
They're set in their old ways. Yeah.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, you host one of my favorite podcasts, All Things Nintendo. Really cool podcast. And also you're so it's nice to say this again. So the last time you were on the show, things happened. When I invited you on the show, you were working at Game Informer, and then things happened, and you were not anymore. But now you're back, and that's really nice to say. So you're part of the Game Informer team. So just quickly, briefly, how does that feel?
Oh, it feels fantastic. It's incredible to have what I would consider like a series of mini miracles happen to lead to this place that we've ended up at. Because once a games media outlet is closed, that's usually that, right? Like there's no coming back from that typically. Like we've seen so many great outlets closed over the years. I mean, I still haven't really fully gotten over places like GamePro or Joystick being closed. So to have Game Informer come back and still be a part of it and have 100% of the team that we really loved working together, literally everybody from our office manager to the editors to the designers to our production people, they all came back. And how does that happen? I have no idea, aside from the fact that it was just like everybody loved the work that we were doing. Everybody loved working with everybody that was on the team. And we have a new parent company that treats us really well and actually supports us when they tell us that we're important to them, which is a refreshing change of pace. So, it was a stressful and really sad 8 months that we were closed, but it's, long run, I think it's a really good thing that this happened, and change of ownership to a really great parent company that has supported us every step of the way.
That's great to hear. Yeah, great to hear. Really glad that things worked out in the end, and for the better, it seems. So
yeah, and on top of all that, we also have our print subscription is back, and we are getting some of the biggest games in the industry back on our covers. Already we've had Borderlands 4, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2, and recently we announced our Ninja Gaiden 4 cover story that I actually wrote by traveling to Platinum Games in Tokyo. And if you haven't gotten an issue of Game Informer in the time since we've reopened, it really is a completely different product, really. Like, it's the same content that we always have delivered. We're trying a few new things here and there, but the real difference is in the quality of the cover and the quality of the paper. And, it really does feel like a premium product. At the tail end of our last era, it was starting to almost feel like newspaper quality, where it was just like really, really like low quality paper, low quality covers. Not the games themselves, but like the paper itself, really just like the lowest quality possible to cut corners and cut costs, not by our own decisions. So we have worked with our current parent company to really up the quality. The covers are super thick. It reminds you of something premium that you would find at like a supermarket, when like you're waiting to like a checkout line and you see like the really, really premium magazines. And then the paper quality itself is just night and day different. And not only that, but we also, unfortunately, print is only available in the US as of now.
Yeah.
But we are hoping to expand in some capacity in the future. We just wanted to get our US launch underway first, and then we were going to expand. Hopefully, that's my hope. Nothing official yet, but that's what I really want to do next: is get the magazine available to people globally, or at least in other regions than it is right now. But if you are a subscriber, it also ships to you in a poly bag. So that has done a couple of things for us. One, it makes it so that the magazines arrive in better condition. So like, if a mail carrier is delivering it in the rain, it's not going to be soaked and all the pages stuck together and everything. It's going to be delivered protected in a plastic bag. But two, it also enables us to do pack-ins like a retro magazine. Okay. So like we've had posters, our last two magazines, and we are going to continue to experiment with different things that we can include with the magazines when we ship them. We would love to do like a demo disc, like the real old school magazines, but looking into that, one, not a lot of people have disk drives anymore, and two, from what I understand, that is quite a difficult task to pull off, given that certifying a disc to play on a console these days is quite the trick, from what I understand.
Yeah. All the rights to different things.
Yeah, as much as we would love to do that, I think that right now we're limited to like physical stuff, like posters, maybe like cards here and there. I don't know. We're kicking around ideas.
Okay. And speaking of the non-US people listening to this, there's a digital subscription as well, by the way. So they can get that. So that's
correct. So you still get all the content. And you just access it through GameInformer.com. We've heard a lot of people request having an app that they can access it through. Our old app, unfortunately, is still, it was run by our previous parent company. So we do not have access to that app. It's no longer being updated. We are hoping to launch a new app. I mean, not hoping to, as in like it's an official plan. This is kind of me talking of like what I hope. We would hope that it would, we would be able to do a new app at some point in the future. We've heard that feedback, and it would be really awesome if we could do that. And we have had internal discussions about like what are our priorities, and the app has come up. Where that falls on the priority list is still to be determined, but it is something we've heard. But for now, you can just go to GameInformer.com, sign into your account, and if you have an active digital subscription anywhere in the world, you can access the full magazine's content without a paywall. It's behind the paywall, but you won't have like the thing blocking you if you have
exactly. Yeah, and no ads and no nothing. So that's like, those are some perks of getting that as well. Yeah, excellent. In congrats on the cover story that was announced. Ninja Gaiden 4. You're kind of like the ninja expert at this point.
Somehow this happened. I don't know how this happened. It started off with, I love Ghost of Tsushima. I was excited for Assassin's Creed Shadows. I'm really excited for Ghost of Yotei next month. And so like, I guess there's like that base level, but like it started off with, hey, I'm excited for Shinobi Art of Vengeance. So I had like a series of interviews with people on SEGA and LizardCube side, and ended up writing a feature about that. And then, I played the Ninja Gaiden games growing up, and my earliest experience was back on the NES, going to a neighbor's house and playing the NES Ninja Gaiden game. And then I loved the kind of like the reboot when they shifted to like the 3D action style that we got with like the original Xbox with Ninja Gaiden 1, and then I went to midnight launch for Ninja Gaiden 2 when I was in college. And Ninja Gaiden 3, not the biggest fan, but I did review it when it came out back in 2012, I think it was. And I think I didn't give it a very flattering score. But Ninja Gaiden 4 feels very good, feels like it is a return to form. And the collaboration between Team Ninja and Platinum Games, if you're like a fast-paced, precision-driven, stylish action fan, like that's like a match made in heaven, those two studios working together.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Yeah. So a friend actually who's been on the show recently called 2025 the year of the ninja.
Mm-hmm.
In a great part due to like several Ninja Gaiden projects, but also Shinobi Art of Vengeance, Ghost of Yotei that you mentioned as well. So it really looks like ninja fans are eating well this year. So that's great. Were you a big Shinobi fan growing up? I know last time you were on the show, you talked about having a Genesis. Was Shinobi something that you played back then or not really?
I rented the game. I never owned it, but I did play a little bit of it. I never liked really the arcade one, which was like more of like a beat 'em up. Or no, it was more of a beat 'em up, right? The arcade style is then like kind of like the Shinobi like console version, right?
Yeah,
I'm trying to.
I wouldn't call it really a beat 'em up, but like it's like just save like hostages. I can find footage for you. I wouldn't call it really a beat 'em up, but like more simplistic. Definitely more simplistic and definitely not as great as the first, as the next ones. The ones we got like The Revenge of Shinobi and Shinobi 3, which were more like elaborate and no real timer. You just had to get through the levels and stuff.
I just looked it up and I'll tell you what I did, which is hilarious given like what we've talked about so far. I confused it with the Ninja Gaiden arcade game versus the Ninja Gaiden NES game, where the Ninja Gaiden arcade game, I believe, was a like kind of like a traditional beat 'em up. Mm-hmm. And then the NES version was where it was like all like the precision platforming. So it is very funny that we're talking about like Year of the Ninja, Ninja Gaiden 4 is coming out soon. We've got Ninja Gaiden Ragebound, and we're here talking about Shinobi Art of Vengeance, and here I am confusing the two franchises' histories.
It happens, yeah. Another one that's a little bit more like the arcade one is Shadow Dancer, which was also released on the Genesis. And this is more akin to the original arcade Shinobi game. I don't really have original arcade, like Shinobi arcade footage, but this is close enough to that. A little bit more complex, but yeah, close enough.
Sure.
Yeah. Do you remember which one you rented? Which of the other ones?
Oh man, let me look at the list here. So I'm sure the box art would, because it was like I said,
it's probably either Shinobi 3 or The Revenge of Shinobi.
That's what I'm thinking. It's Revenge.
Okay.
But let me just see if I can find the box art here. I'm sorry.
That's my favorite.
Thrilling for anybody who's listening.
They're used to it. Yeah. My favorite is Revenge. Was it something like this?
Yeah, it was Revenge. Yeah.
So
definitely was that one.
Yeah. Okay. This is my favorite. It's the one that I spend more time with. Yeah. Really hard game though. I don't know if you agree or if you remember that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, really, and I talked to the producers over on Sega's side about that because I was like, hey, like I remember playing some of the Shinobi games back when I was younger, and like they were really, really difficult. And they're like, yeah, we know that they were super difficult and maybe at times even unfair. And we made sure to keep the difficulty, but lose some of the unfairness with Art of Vengeance.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I actually talked to Ben Fikay of LizardCube recently, and he said, yeah, we knew that if we did something like the original games, people would be bored. Real hardcore fans would probably enjoy it because they have nostalgia for it, but like these days, people need something more fast-paced and fairer. To be honest, it needs to be more fair because I had some cheap deaths playing
Yeah.
Revenge of Shinobi back in the day. Yeah. And so you mentioned the feature that you wrote about, like the preview feature about this. And that's when I actually wrote down in my like season plan for the SEGA Lounge. I'm going to do an episode about Art of Vengeance when it comes out. And I think I'm going to invite Brian Shea because I think he's going to, hopefully, I like fingers crossed, he'll review the game so we can talk more about it. And that happened. So you reviewed Art of Vengeance. You gave it a 9.25, which is a very good score. Among other things, you said you gave high praise, like this is a precision-driven action platformer that deserves to be mentioned among the best of the last several years. High praise. So let's talk a little bit about that. Not being that well versed in this series, coming into it, what were you expecting of this new game, Brian?
So I had played a little bit of it for a preview, and I really appreciate the work that LizardCube has done. I think Streets of Rage 4 is a very good beat 'em up. And I didn't play their Wonder Boy revitalization, but I've seen it and it's absolutely gorgeous. So coming into it, I knew that it was going to be a beautiful game and like a well-made game. And that's an understatement as soon as you see it in action, because it's arguably one of the most beautiful games I've ever played. It like, especially like there were some moments early on where like my jaw was like, oh my, like it was open, just being like, oh my God, like this game looks so beautiful in motion that like Ben's art style, because he's the studio head, but he's also the art director. And talking to him, he was talking about how like the games that inspired him to even get into the industry were like the Disney games on Genesis, where it was like the animations were so smooth and it just looked like you were playing through a cartoon. And that's kind of the like one of the impetuses of him starting towards this career of doing video game art and creating these beautiful games. And the way that the characters in these games move, not just Shinobi but also Streets of Rage, that it really shows that like that inspiration has stuck with him through the years. And so I knew coming in that it was going to be a beautiful game, and that proved true in so many ways. But the wild card is always like, all right, well, this is a revitalization of a long dormant franchise. How is it going to play? Because like you mentioned in your conversation with him, if you just did like the old style, I don't know how well that would be received by fans in 2025. But if you deviate too much, people who are fans of the old style are going to be like, hey, this is not the Shinobi that I remember. This is not like what I was hoping for when you said you were going to revive these older franchises, like Sega has said they're doing with several of their series right now. And this Shinobi one is actually the first in that initiative that they announced at the Game Awards a couple of years ago. And, I think that they walked that tightrope, and I said as much in my review, they walked it perfectly, of delivering an experience that does feel like a Shinobi game, but it also takes into account all of the game design convention evolution that has occurred in, it's been like several years, more than a decade since we've gotten a Shinobi game, but it's also been, a long time since we've gotten kind of like a classic Shinobi game where, like a Revenge of Shinobi and 3, like you're talking about, like, so to kind of show that like not only is this a game that takes those lessons from the original series, but also the lessons of all the games that have come in the time since Shinobi or otherwise, it is extremely successful in that regard. And it does deliver an experience where you are going from encounter to encounter, and it doesn't ever really feel monotonous. I'm sure you've played several games where it takes you from one encounter to the next, to the next, to the next. And at first it's like, oh, this is cool. And then by like the third or fourth time, you're like, all right, I've already seen this. I've already done this. This feels like we're just rehashing the same things over and over again. It doesn't feel fresh. Shinobi doesn't suffer from that. Shinobi Art of Vengeance does not suffer from that. Every single encounter, even though it is often the same enemies that you're fighting, it's always in these different combinations or in a different level that like requires you to think about it just different enough that it's not like repetitive. It's like, oh, well, this time like there's archers that are shooting at me that I have to worry about, or there are these drones that like require me to do a little bit of crowd control before I focus on like the big bad of this wave of enemies. Or, oh, the platforms are just slightly askew this time. And I don't know why that minute detail makes it feel fresh when you're really, again, you're fighting the same combination of enemies in a lot of these encounters, but it's just slight variables that keep the experience fresh. And then also it's paced in such a way where it's almost the levels play out almost like linear Metroidvanias where there's a definitive point A and a definitive point B, and it's often you're starting left and you're going right, and for some reason it still feels like Metroidvania. Like there are little branching paths that you can go off to, and they almost always end in a dead end, but at the end of that dead end there is something cool waiting for you, whether it is like an elite squad that you have to take down, or an Oboro relic that you pick up that allows you to expand your shop the next time you go by the shop. Like if you have enough Oboro relics, you can make it so there are more items offered in that. And you can also like customize your loadout in extensive ways. Like you can choose 4 abilities that you can use, and then there's like an ultimate ability. Plus, there's an active and a passive amulet that you can equip to modify like the character perks. So there's all these different ways that you can modify the game, keep the game fresh, whether it's through this exploration, these platforming challenges. Oh yeah, there's also Anku rifts that you can find where I would say is probably where you'll find the most challenging encounters and challenging sequences in the game. They're not all combat encounters, but I think that one of the rifts is the toughest time I had with any encounter in the game, including the final boss. I know there's a hidden boss if you do all of the customize or the secret stuff, and I did not do that, so I can't speak to that. But I do know that like some of those rifts do offer quite a difficult challenge, but other ones are fairly straightforward.
Yeah, that's true. I will say I agree with that, except for one single part in the game that's what's standing right now between me and 100% in the game.
Okay.
Which is, and I don't want to spoil this for people. We're recording this, so for context, we're recording on release day for people that are that got the regular edition. People who got the digital ultimate whatever pre-ordered got 3 days of early access. I think I got my review copy last week, so I've spent a whole week with the game. Replayed the game several times to record as well, by the way, which I should be showing since I spend so much time recording. I should show some B-roll. But I haven't 100%ed the game because of a specific part in almost the last level, what you would think is the last level. There's a secret part, a secret bunker that's got a platforming section that's I don't know. I'm not skilled enough to get through it. I'm almost there, and then I end up getting frustrated and pressing the wrong button at the wrong time. So, but I hope I can do it when I sit down, maybe this weekend, and just
I believe in you.
Thank you. At least you do. I don't, but thank you. Thank you for that. Boosting my confidence a little bit.
There was one Anku Rift, and I haven't done all of them, so and I don't know exactly what platforming challenge you're talking about. Maybe I've done it, maybe I haven't. No. Okay, but it's in like one of the later levels.
Yeah, one of the later levels, you have a secret area that you access to get the last bit of what I would assume is the last secret item to access that hidden boss that you were talking about.
Which item you're talking about. I didn't get all the items. We're talking in vagaries right now, but I did not do that, getting all of those anyway. Maybe I did the platforming challenge because there were a couple later on that like I found that were optional that I was ramming my head against for quite a while. But yeah, I mean, there are some. It's a challenge. Again, it is a challenging game without being unfair at really any point. I think there were a couple bosses where I was just like, I don't like this pattern, but like after a couple of times, I picked up on like what it was doing, and I was able to adjust. And I've actually found that like aggression is typically a pretty good policy. With if you're ever stuck in like a combat scenario, whether it's a boss fight or a rift or just a standard encounter within the levels, 'cause some of those are pretty intense as well. Aggression tended to be a pretty good policy. Yeah. So like you can see where enemies are spawning in, and if you just go to there and like stand there and wait for them to pop up and then just unleash fury on them, that has proven pretty effective in my gameplay. I also one of the things that you can do is like, you know, there are the ultimate abilities, the ninjutsu arts that you can get that are, you know, less frequent than what are they, ninpo?
Yeah, the ninpo, the 4 ones you trigger with the left button.
So there's the ninpo that operate on cooldown more so than the ultimate, which operates on a different gauge. And there's one that, like, you know, it summons a dragon that lights everything on fire, and then there's several others. But the one that I actually ended up relying on to help me out the most was the healing one.
Same.
Because like I was like, oh, this is cool that I can unleash like 20 hits on everybody on screen. It kills most enemies. It does pretty good damage to bosses and like more elite enemies. But the healing thing, to have like an extra life bar essentially, was such a big boost to like some of those later boss fights, especially.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Agreed. Did you end up using the ninpo a lot?
Yeah. So the two that I used the most were the fire ninpo, because I noticed it did a pretty substantial deal of like damage to bosses especially, but also like unshielded enemies. So like if you take out an enemy's shield, like if they're like one of like the higher up minions and they have like the shield you have to take down, getting rid of their shield and then throwing a fire ninpo at them did quite a good deal of damage. I also really liked the giant shuriken that would like spin at an enemy and then kind of boomerang back to you.
Yep.
I used that to pretty good effect as well. But I was relying pretty heavily on like the combos, the kunai, all the various like different like kind of standard attacks. I think were my typical strategies. Getting airborne, unleashing combos at enemies in midair, dive kicking to another enemy. Like I had a lot of fun messing around with these like different combos and ways to take down these enemies.
Yeah, definitely. I ended up so I was pretty far into the game when I realized I was missing out on using ninpo, to be honest. And when I realized that I was at like the final boss, the second form of the final boss. Oops, spoilers. But okay.
What game at this point doesn't have a second form on a final boss?
Yeah, exactly. And I realized I'm struggling a bit with this. I'm almost getting it, but my usually approach at any sort of game is the one that you just mentioned, like aggression. That's usually I just dive head first and let's see what happens, and I'll just beat up everyone, or at least try, or die trying, what usually happens. But here I agree. That's the better approach. Like if you're like struggling with something, instead of trying like a specific strategy to, I don't know, to hit an enemy from a distance or whatever, don't do that. Just get in there, combo your way out of that battle, and you'll probably succeed. I was doing that with that final boss, but I was struggling a bit that last stretch, and I remembered, well, what about the ninpo? Why not use the ninpo? And I actually went into my like gear section, my gear menu, and I realized there was a specific one that's like all that they actually rank the ninpo like in terms of like power, and the snake one, I realized, well, this changes everything. The only problem with that is that it can be like canceled. It can be interrupted. So if you get hit, the snake goes away and you get hit and you lose that you lose the ability to use it again, right?
And it takes forever to summon.
Yeah, it takes. So it's
And
got a little
in a
bit of
fast-paced
risk
action
reward.
game, yeah.
Yeah, it's a little bit like, I remember Streets of Rage 4. You could use some of your skill, like special skills, at the cost of a little bit of your health, which you could get back if you were successful in hitting enemies again and killing them. So it was like a little bit of a bet, risk reward thing. Here, that's also the case, but you have to be really sure that you're able to protect yourself, keep yourself safe until the snake actually attacks, and it does a lot of damage. So that's a really powerful one that
It is. I used that for maybe half a level, and then I realized it just took way too long to summon. Even with the amulet that you can get that makes it so the summoning time is shorter, I equipped that, and I was even like, wow, this is still really, really slow. And I threw it away immediately.
Yeah. But I do agree that there are challenges. And you mentioned the fact that most enemies are the same type, or you don't have to really get that much variation in terms of like from the first or second level to the rest of the game. You keep fighting the same enemies. One thing that changes as you progress is the shields that you also talked about. So even like the simplest minions also have a shield, sometimes extra layers of shields as well, which you have to break. So that offers another like layer of challenge there as well. But I never felt, even with this the secret bunker that I was talking about that is still kicking my ass to this day, I never felt like it was the game's fault, if that makes sense. It's not like poor design or being unfair like we talked about in previous games, like Genesis games. It always feels like it's my fault. So I'm never angry at the game. I always get mad at myself because I suck. If that makes sense.
I mean that I think that's the mark of a good difficult game, right? Like it's not like, oh my god, that's so unfair, like what the heck? At least not in hindsight. In the moment you might feel that way until you see the patterns and you learn how to like deal with whatever's being thrown your way. Like there were certainly times where I'm like, how the heck do I deal with this? Like what am I supposed to do here? Like this is stupid. Why did they design it this way? And then after like a few more failures, it was like, oh, okay, that's what I need to do. When he goes down to do this, I need to like jump out of the way and then dive kick and then land a combo or use a ninpo or something like that to really knock him down. And once you start piecing that together, it felt like every success was like, you know, kind of like, yes, I did it. And like, I feel good about it because I didn't have to like cheese my way through it. It felt like it was an accomplishment. And then every time I died, eventually it was like, you know, because I learned my lessons. It wasn't because like I just eventually like willed my way through it. It was, okay, I learned lessons. And maybe there was absolutely some willpower involved as well. But like, it wasn't solely like, okay, I got lucky and got through that encounter somehow. It was like, no, I knew what I needed to do and I executed on it in the way that I needed to.
Yeah, for sure. And you touched upon something that's important, that feeling of accomplishment when you finally conquer that bit of a level that's more challenging, or even the optional parts of the stage. It's like I told Ben Fiquet when we talked, it's like you can get through the level, you can finish the level and get through the story without getting the optional content and like following optional paths and stuff. But you really feel like you should, right? So, and I felt that when I was playing, especially after I beat the final boss and I got some more time to go back and like complete everything. I felt like it's not a chore. It's like it's really pleasurable to do this, and wondering what challenge awaits me here. What like special relic will I find? What like unlockable will I get? What secret will I find? And also, I feel like the game is designed in a way that it's not always evident when you have like 2 or 3 branching paths that you sometimes see. it's not always evident which one is the main path to your goal, to the boss or whatever, and which one is the optional one. So I ended up sometimes going like right, for example, thinking, okay, this is the optional one. Let me go clear that first. And then it was the main path. So, and I was like,
I was talking to, on my podcast this week, I did a big Shinobi Art of Vengeance kind of blowout where I had T. Lopes, the composer, on the show, but also had, for a different segment, Inverse's Hayes Madsen, who also reviewed Shinobi Art of Vengeance. He gave it a 9 out of 10. I gave it a 9.25 out of 10. So we're fairly aligned. And he pointed out to me, which is something I did not pick up on, but like the optional paths actually have like color coding, like subtle color coding that you can see. And now, like in hindsight, I'm like, oh my God, you're right. Why I played through that entire game without realizing that like that's what those colors meant. I did notice there were different colors, but I was like, what are those signaling? I don't even know. And then like now in hindsight, it's so obvious.
I did notice that, but there's an issue here is I rarely open the map when I'm playing a game. Like the first playthrough, I'm just playing through it. So I ended up opening the map and realizing that there were different colors. Like I think the purple areas are the secret ones. But I did that when I beat the game the first time. So, and I went back.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive because there were a couple of times where I was like, where am I supposed to go? And I had to scour the map to find like one spot where I had not already explored. And I'm like, maybe it's there. And then I go there and I'm like, oh yeah, there's like a little pathway here that I was supposed to take that I completely missed. So good on you for making it through the game without using the map. But I had to definitely
I probably did that as well. But I mean, like really going through the map, like to see exactly where the secrets are. I did that later. That's what I think. There was a specific level. I think it was like the submarine lab or a submarine base or whatever. That one I think was the one that when I got lost. And I really didn't know where. I thought I had like unlocked everything, all the paths, and I couldn't really. But then again, it was on me. Like, pay attention. Pay attention when you're playing a game, please. Just watch, look for the signs. It's right there in front of you. So yeah, I can't really blame the game for anything.
While we're on the topic of level design, I think that is the only thing for me that is in contention with the art style in terms of like my favorite part of this game. I think the level design is as near to flawless as a game like this can be. I think that like they breadcrumb things appropriately. They show you like, you know, here are the paths, you can take them. And once you understand the color coding that I did not understand, you know where you can go. Like I never really felt like I was truly lost. And whenever I was, the map would usually give me a pretty good indication. But it also like, it had kind of like that good level of exploration that my favorite games have, where it's like, I don't know where this path is taking me, but I bet it's going to be something cool or fun or rewarding at the end of it. You know, that's my favorite part about my favorite game of all time, which is Breath of the Wild. Mm-hmm. It's like, I don't know what's at top of this mountain or this cliff that I'm climbing, but I bet it's something awesome in one way or another. And it often is in Breath of the Wild. And that also translates to Shinobi Art of Vengeance, where it's like, yeah, there's 3 paths I can take. This is probably the mainline path, but I want to go the other paths as well, because they do such a good job of making it so that you want to see everything this game has to offer, because it's not just like rewarding to get through to the end. It's rewarding to get through as much of this game as possible. And I would even, I'd put the level design even above the combat, which I think the combat is phenomenal. It's, I think, the best 2D combat I've experienced in quite some time. It's probably, I mean, man, what's the last great 2D combat? I mean, Ninja Gaiden Ragebound is quite good as well. I prefer this over Ninja Gaiden Ragebound's combat.
Haven't played that, but I've heard good things as well.
It's also shorter than Shinobi Art of Vengeance. I think it's only like 4 or 5 hours if you play kind of like the main story, whereas this took me about, I mean, I did quite a bit of exploration, but this took me about 15 to 20 hours. to get through with doing reasonable completion, like not like 100%ing or anything, but like if I saw an optional thing, I was going to go do it. And I spent about 15 to 20 hours on this. Ninja Gaiden Ragebound substantially shorter. But I would say maybe like Dead Cells is maybe the last game that is like up there in terms of like this level of enjoyment of the combat. And that's high praise, because Dead Cells is one of my favorite indie games of all time.
Yeah. Yeah, I do agree with that. And I do think that, however, that the levels can become a little bit too long. I think you mentioned this in your review as well. Like the only downside, they can, if you're looking at this from like a very objective perspective, levels are a little bit too long. But you don't really care about that because you're having so much fun playing. So I think if the gameplay wasn't really as satisfying as it is, not just the combat, but like movement itself is so fun and fluid. You get into that like state of flow. And I mentioned this to Ben as well. You're moving, you can vault through obstacles. If you time things correctly, you just press like the R button, or I guess R1 and right? The dash button. You can like just vault through obstacles. You keep running. That's so satisfying. You really feel like a ninja. I assume.
So I think that there were two things that I was not the biggest fan of. It wasn't as far from deal breakers, right? And the one of the ones you mentioned was the length of the levels. And it's not that I dislike how long the levels are. It was like more of like, it gets rid of that. And I think I said this in my review, it gets rid of that like inclination that you, or that urge that you sometimes have with games like this, where it's like, okay, one more level. All right, let me play one more level. Like I think about games like Astrobot, where like the levels are like, I think appropriately long in that. It's not too long. It's not like, oh, I just started this level and now it's over. But at the end of every Astrobot level, I'm just like, okay, maybe I play one more level. Like I want to, but like Shinobi, like as the night was starting to get a little bit later and I'm, coming up on like hour 5 or 6 of this session that I'm playing, I get it in my head. Okay, this is my last level. And then when I beat the boss and it's over and it's like the new level opens up, or the next like little group of levels, I'm like, okay, that's a good stopping point. I didn't have like that urge, because I was like, if I get into this level, it's going to be another 20 to 30 minutes before I'm able to come out of it. And I mean, again, not a huge negative, but it is a little bit of a detractor for a fast-paced action platformer like this. Then the other thing that I wasn't the biggest fan of is there's one level in particular that I think is a little bit lower in terms of the design than the rest of them. And it did cause me a little bit of frustration. It's a later level. I don't think it's the one you're talking about. It was just, there were times where it felt a little bit tedious, more so than rewarding, in terms of like getting through it and like opening the paths and everything, but also like the exploration just didn't feel that great.
Okay. Yeah. I was just looking at my recording of, so something that's not really a spoiler, because people who played the demo probably know this. Once you completed the level in the demo, you unlocked arcade mode, which in the full game happens when you beat the final boss. So you complete the game, you beat the game, you get arcade mode, which is you can replay the stages and try to go for the best score, best time. I did a playthrough of the first stage, the first level in arcade mode, and it took me almost 13 minutes without going for like most of the secrets in the first level, without like finding you if you get more points if you find more medals, if you go for the elite squads. I didn't, so I only got a B, and it took me apparently 11 minutes. Sorry, 11 minutes.
Okay,
this is my stage clear screen here. So 11 minutes. So that means, and it's the first stage, it's really pretty straightforward. You have to unlock some doors and stuff, but other than that, it's like just go right. So that means even if you're not going for the secrets, even if you're not doing everything in the level, they're pretty long still. So maybe plan your day accordingly. maybe play 1 or 2 levels a day, and unless you have a lot of time on your hands.
Yeah, and I will say that one thing about arcade mode that I wish I knew going in, because I was like, okay, I beat the game. I'm going to go play some of these levels in arcade mode. I got like halfway through that first stage that you played in arcade mode, and I was like, oh, you don't get credit for any of the secrets that you find. Because I was like, oh, well, now I have like all these abilities, and true to Metroidvania conventions, I can access more things in these levels that I've already beaten. Like now I can punch through floors and I can punch through these walls and everything. So I was like, oh, I can go back and get the secrets, but let me play it in arcade mode, so it's also score driven, and like it, you get like little like score boosts basically. You don't
Yeah.
get like any of the secrets. So I was like, all right, well, maybe I won't play arcade mode until I get all like 100% of this game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. You don't get like the main secrets. You have to go back to the original mode and do it there. Yeah, that's true. I do agree with that. So, but I think, like you said, it's not like a deal breaker or anything, because you do really feel amazing while playing the game. So, as much as objectively speaking, I agree that levels are a bit too long. It really feels amazing, and even like I said, I'm not really a person who likes to. If it's too challenging for me, I end up maybe giving up, or maybe putting the game aside and saying, "Oh, I'll come back to it eventually," and never do. But with this one, I felt like, no, I need to do it one more time. I think I've got like, I'm really, really close. So it's like that perfect balance between challenge and reward, in the way that you keep learning, you keep honing your skills, and you feel like one more try and I'll get it. So it's perfectly designed that way. And the regular challenges are good. The self-contained challenges in the Yanku Reefs are very cool as well. I just really hate that hidden bunker in the later stages. I'm sorry, but yeah, it's probably...
You'll look back on it with great fondness one day.
Probably. I kept remembering or thinking back to a game that I played a few years ago. I don't know if you're familiar with this, Dust: An Elysian Tale.
I've heard of it, and I never played it, though.
Okay, really cool Metroidvania. That's more of a Metroidvania. And I kept thinking, it's one of my favorites, I think. I probably have it on like 3 platforms. Like every time I get a new console, I think, oh, the game is available for the Switch, so let's play it on the Switch. Why not buy it again? It's probably available for very cheap on Steam. It's like $15 or whatever, $14.99 I'm seeing now. So here's my...
I'm gonna have to add it to my my Switch wish list.
Yeah, that's your eShop gem of the week.
Exactly. I was just thinking that.
So there's a freebie for you for a future episode.
Thank you.
But I think it's much longer than this. There's more. It's really a Metroidvania. There's more of like that. Find a new ability and go back to the beginning to unlock something that will help you progress through the story and stuff. This is much more linear. So Art of Vengeance is much more linear. But I kept thinking about this game and the way it's designed, the way it really feels to play. I keep going to that state of flow that I mentioned before. You really feel like you're sometimes just gliding through the levels, if done right. Timing is very important, even to pull out like combos and stuff. But it really feels satisfying once you just learn to time things correctly. Really satisfying. So definitely something that I enjoyed playing.
Yeah, it's up there with my favorite kind of 2D action games. Also, another Metroidvania that sorry, I have a dog climbing up on my lap right now. Another 2D Metroidvania you should probably check out if you like kind of like the challenging Metroidvanias is Sundered, if you've never played that.
Nope.
It's by the team that, let's see, what is the game, or what studio was that?
Thunder Lotus.
Yeah, okay. So they did what is it called? Spiritfarer.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, but this is a completely different experience than that. I gave it, I think, a 7.75 when I reviewed it back in, I think it was 2017 when it came out. But a lot of that was just because of technical problems. And they even wrote me an email. They're like, "Hey, we agree with you. It wasn't optimized very well. There's a lot of stuttering." And, when you're doing like a precision action game, because there's a lot of really challenging encounters in that game, but like the combat is so smooth. It really impacted my enjoyment. But like, I mean, now I bet it runs fantastic. It's on all platforms from what I
Yeah, I
understand.
can see that. Add it to my wish list as well. Thank you for that.
It's quite
Thank you
good.
for the recommendation. I think, though, if you want to go for something more recent, Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown.
Oh yeah,
right? It's lots of like Prince of Persia vibes here. Even some of the stages, there's like a desert stage here in Art of Vengeance that reminded me a lot of that. Even the music and stuff. So, and definitely one of my favorite games in recent times. It's like this type of game is, I have to say, is my jam. So I really did feel like, and that, like the combat as well, the movement felt a little bit like that. So really, probably, I don't know, maybe a notch above that for me. I don't know.
wow.
It's different in terms of like the gameplay. I think Prince of Persia is probably a longer game. Story wise, is probably better. This is a pretty straightforward story. I don't think people play Shinobi games for the story. But I think the art style of this is several notches above Lost Crown for me, and the
Oh, agreed.
gameplay much like, it's one of the better looking games I've played in many years. So really really beautiful. But gameplay wise, I'll give the edge to Art of Vengeance. It's slightly. But yeah, reminded me of that as well. So a lot of recommendations if you want to play a game like Art of Vengeance, but first play Art of Vengeance and then go back to all of these that we mentioned. Yeah, that's probably
Definitely.
a good idea. Okay, very good. Anything else that I think you said there was another thing that you mentioned as like a negative, or
Oh, it was just that
was it?
one level that I referenced that I don't
Oh,
want to
okay,
spoil
yeah.
because it is a later level, so I don't
Oh,
want to
okay.
spoil like what the location is. But just not a big fan of the design, the aesthetic,
Okay.
or some of the exploration.
Okay. Fair enough. What's your favorite level? Do you have a favorite or
Oh
something that's
man,
like stood out?
I liked the Lantern Festival quite a bit. I thought that was a really cool stage, a beautiful aesthetic. Um, there's one later level where you're kind of storming a castle. I
Hmm.
think that's not entirely spoilery, given that like that's probably a pretty generic thing that happens in an action game.
Yeah.
That's a pretty cool level.
Hmm.
I think those are probably the two that immediately stand out. I liked the desert level for a while, but then there's a mechanic that they introduce, and there is a sound of like jingling wind chimes as you are standing in the wind that you use for this mechanic. That when I noticed it, it drove me up a wall because I was like, why is it constantly sounding like wind chimes?
That's true. Now that I think about it, yes.
It started driving me insane every time. But like in that level, it is particularly prominent because it's like when they introduce the mechanic.
Okay, yeah, that's true. Okay, yeah. Let Festival is definitely my favorite. It's really beautiful, especially like the festival part of it, because you don't. It's called the Lantern Festival, but you start in like a village, and
Yeah,
then it gets
like
busier and
swamps.
busier. Yeah, the swamps. Yeah, and like it gets busier and livelier. The city is also interesting, especially for the Easter eggs. There are some cool Easter
Mhm.
eggs in the city area
Yeah.
as well. But my favorite Easter egg is this one, because I'm a big Shenmue fan. So getting Ryo Hazuki in the background
Oh, I
in
did
the
not even see that. I love
oh
Shenmue as
really?
well. That
Yeah.
was actually one of I went to Tokyo for Ninja Gaiden 4. I bought a Dreamcast copy of Shenmue 2 because we never got that in the West. We got it on Xbox because the
In
Dreamcast
the
had been
US, yeah,
discontinued.
yeah.
Yes,
In
in
Europe,
the
we got
US.
it
Sorry.
in Japanese with like subtitles.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, in the US we got it on Xbox, and I have the Xbox version, but like it was cool just to see like a Dreamcast copy of Shenmue 2, and so I had to take that home. So I'm a big Shenmue fan as well, particularly the first one. The second one wasn't as great for me, and then the third one I kind of didn't really play too much of.
Yeah, I love the first one as well, a little bit more than the second one. The third one is getting an enhanced edition. I don't know, you probably heard that.
Great.
Yeah,
I did not hear that actually.
Yeah, okay. So In Games owns like the publishing rights now of Shenmue 3, and they just announced at Gamescom that they're putting out an enhanced edition, like fixing some of the gripes that people had with the original version of the third game, which is definitely not the same as the first two, but maybe not as bad as some people say it is. But yeah, definitely excited for that in an enhanced edition. But this Ryo Hazuki cameo, this one takes the cake for me.
Yeah, that's really cool. I completely missed that in the I guess the fish market stage.
Yeah, it's the fish market stage, the warehouse. It's a very short section. Like there's some verticality to this part of the stage, but it's really simple. And you just see Ryo going left or right to left in this case, just driving his forklift. As one does. Yeah, really cool Easter egg. Yeah. There are some others that I won't spoil because I think it's fun to find them. And I'm sure I didn't even notice many of them because LizardCube are known for being very prolific in their Easter egg placement. I talked to Ben about that, and he said this time we have to be more careful because it's an actual Sega game. Streets of Rage was like a licensed game, so it's a little bit different. But still, we got some really cool things there. So please try to find them all. Yeah. One last thing I wanted to touch on, Brian, and since you actually got T-Lopes on the show so when this is coming out last week, 2 weeks ago, I'm not even sure. Go find All Things Nintendo. There's an episode with T-Lopes. What do you think about the music in this?
Oh, it's among my. Oh my god! I had to put this dog on the ground. He can't behave himself.
Also a big fan of T-Lopes.
Yes, T-Lopes does the theme song for my podcast. But he, I think it's among my favorite of his work. Like, it's going to always be hard for him to top his work in Sonic Mania, just because I'm such like a fan of the music of Sonic, and he redid a lot of those great songs, and then made several of his own. But I would say that, like, in terms of like, oh my god, sorry, this dog is losing his mind. In terms of like
T-Lopes, the dog is a
his
fan.
more original stuff. Yes, he is. In terms of like his original stuff, like I think that this is top tier. It is. It does what it's supposed to do, which is like it ramps up properly when an intense encounter is happening. The boss theme is terrific, and the music in the stages when you're exploring. I told him this on my podcast, where it's like, when you're playing a game like this, there can be a temptation to like put on your own music or listen to a podcast while you're doing it. I never had that urge with this game. Instead, I was just completely enveloped in the sound design and the soundtrack. And I think that's a testament to how good the music is.
Yeah, for sure. There are some sections in this game where you can't move on until you kill all the enemies on the screen. And that's when like the music ramps up. So it's usually like a little bit more ambient in the background. You don't notice it as much. And then when you're like full on in battle, that's when the music really ramps up and you're like, oh, you get a kick out of it. And like, it really also boosts the adrenaline up a bit. And it helps get that feeling of like, yeah, let's do this. So, and the boss fight is definitely a highlight for me as well. So definitely. Really, really cool. Yeah. So I don't know, 9.25 recommended, I guess.
Yeah, definitely recommended.
Definitely recommended. Okay. Yeah, same here. Go check out Shinobi Art of Vengeance. Brian, what do you think this means for the future of two things? Let's start the future of Shinobi. Do you think there's room for more Shinobi? Should we leave it there for a while? Should we expand on this? What do you think?
No, I think this is definitely proof positive that there is room for Shinobi to have a full-on resurgence. I asked Ben and the producers over at Sega, like, if this is successful, would you consider doing more? And they said, yeah, absolutely. Like, we're doing these revitalizations not just as one-offs. If they're successful and people like the directions that we're taking, we want to continue to support fans of these IP. And so I think that, it seems like critics really love this game and the direction that they're taking. And it would stand to reason that if fans like it and it sells well, that they would keep doing stuff like this. And then in terms of like what it means for like the future of like the rest of the revitalizations.
Yeah, that was my second question. Yeah,
I figured. I think that is. I'm more excited for it now, because I think that some of the other games are maybe going to be a little bit more difficult to bring into modern conventions, like Jet Set Radio, Crazy Taxi. Some of those games, maybe I don't know. I mean, I guess Golden Axe is also kind of like an action franchise that you could do some more straightforward stuff with. But like Crazy Taxi and Jet Set Radio, I feel like those were very much products of their time. And if they could find a modern way to do that, I will be thrilled because I love those franchises, especially like back in the Dreamcast days. But yeah, give me more of these. Give me more great retro revivals and more revived long dormant franchises.
I think when I saw the trailer back in that like the Game Awards 2023, this was the one that I wasn't concerned about at all. I knew this was going to be good. I told this to Ben, like, I saw that this is a LizardCube joint for sure. This is Ben's art style for sure. And he's like, yeah, we got a lot of messages, like people saying that, oh, I know it's you. We couldn't say anything. We had to wait for the proper reveal. But because of that, and knowing like LizardCube's pedigree at that point, I knew it was going to be good. So I really never really doubted this for 1 second. I'm not too sure about the other ones. And the fact that this is the first one, I think, plays in their favor. But I still need more convincing in terms of all the other projects. I think Golden Axe, if they went the same route, they could do something fun with it. I'm not sure if they're going to do that or if they're going to like go like the Souls route with it. 3D Souls-like gameplay.
I don't know. I mean, if this is any indication, it seems like they're veering a little bit closer to like the classic styles of gameplay, even if like they're evolving with the game design convention. But we'll have to see.
Yeah,
they're remaining tight-lipped.
Yeah. So we'll have to see. But at least the first one definitely a success, sitting at 86 for PC on Metacritic, 87 PS5, 90 Xbox Series X. Less reviews as well. So, which is why there's probably a higher score there. But really cool game. Well received by critics and fans, and definitely recommended. So, yeah, Brian, anything else you think we should add about this game? Have we said it all?
I think we've covered it. I mean, it's a great game. Definitely recommend checking it out. And I hope you love it as much as I did.
Yeah, for sure.
It's my game of the year frontrunner right now.
Definitely. I didn't want to go there, but yeah, sure, for sure. Definitely Sega Game of the Year and Game of the Year so far as well. So that says a lot. Especially coming from you and your background, you get access to all kinds of games. So that says a lot about the quality of the game. Yeah. Okay. Brian, thank you very much for your time. I don't want to let you leave this place without telling us what awesome things have been happening over at All Things Nintendo. You already touched on that a little bit, right? So, T-Lopes, last episode, anything else planned that people will enjoy?
We're just continuing to cover all the biggest news out of Nintendo, all the biggest games. It's an exciting time for Nintendo, given that they just had the Switch 2 launch, and I think that we're going to have a big 2026. So we're just going to continue to talk about games like Pokemon and Metroid Prime 4, Kirby Air Riders. Those are all on the horizon that we're all pretty excited about. And then 2026 is still a big question mark, but I bet we're going to start seeing some of these bigger franchises coming back that people may have been missing. I think that we're going to start seeing some Mario news pretty soon here. I think we're going to start seeing some of these other series that Nintendo hasn't really mentioned in conjunction with the Switch 2 get announced going into 2026. So it's a fun time where there's a lot of speculation. There's a lot of cool stuff to talk about. And we have a new system. So that's always fun.
Excellent. Yeah. By the way, how can people support the show if they want to?
Well, there's a Patreon page. That's the most straightforward and most impactful way. There's a $3 tier that gets you access to our community Discord. There's a $5 tier that gets you early and ad-free episodes. And there's a $10 tier that gets you shout outs at the end of every show. So, that's the best way. You can also just, follow the channel on YouTube, leave comments on Spotify or YouTube to kind of help boost the algorithm, leave a review on whatever platform you listen on. Those are all free ways to support the show. So, appreciate it if you check it out.
Excellent. Very good. Yeah. Also definitely recommended. So do check it out. One of my favorite podcasts to listen every week. So
thank you.
Yeah. Brian, thank you very much for coming. As for us here over at the SEGA Lounge, we're always here every week with more Sega content. Hope you enjoyed these past weeks of Shinobi content. This is finally the end of our, probably, I don't know if people who are not Shinobi fans, maybe we've done too much, but I don't care because Shinobi is great, and Shinobi Art of Vengeance is definitely a recommended game. Do check it out. Even if you're not a fan of the original ones, you'll probably enjoy this modern take on Shinobi. But yeah, this is the final episode in that series of Shinobi shows, and we'll be back next week with more Sega content. So do check us out on those links below on our website, and do give us a follow on YouTube. Also for those 30 seconds of Sega education videos that we put out twice a week usually. So do check us out there. Brian, again, thank you so much for joining me. It's been a blast. Hope we can do this again soon.
Yeah, this was fun. Thank you.
Yeah. Bye-bye, everyone. See you next time. The SEGA Lounge, hosted by me, KC, a Mixed Productions podcast and part of Radio Sega's network of live shows and podcasts. Theme song and incidental music by OSC. Got any suggestions? Drop me an email to podcast@thesegalounge.com. Find us at thesegalounge.com on Blue Sky. Check out our YouTube channel for our video content and follow us on Twitch to join our Let's Play sessions and live episodes. You can find previous episodes of the show by going to thesegalounge.com on the TerraPlayer app and wherever you listen to podcasts.